happy Monday, everybody. We are back here with another Marvel Monday for you guys with the Crescent Lake Club live here on Twitch and YouTube. I'm Keels, and next to me, no, that is not Teets. It is not Loki. It is our special guest filling in for Ryan tonight for this stream. It is the one, the only Mr. Worldwide coming live to you from my backyard. Hello, Mr.
From the
World.
dog, yes, coming live from the doghouse. Yes, very nice to finally meet you, Keels. A longtime fan, first-time guest, obviously, and been internet friends for a long time. I'm just happy to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. So we have kind of a different show planned for tonight. For everyone who watches and joins us every Monday, it seems that Marvel and Disney love to drop Marvel news for us on Monday, and today was no different. So we have a couple cool things to talk about. Then we're going to get into our review of this week's movie. As you know, we are doing a chronological rewatch of all of the movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We started with Captain America, the first Avenger, and this week we have made it through all of the Iron Man backstory. We made it through the first Avengers. We are getting to the meat of everything. We are officially in the second cycle of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and this week we watched Thor: The Dark World, and we've got some pretty hot takes on it. I even have some things that Teets wanted me to mention just so he'd feel like he's still involved with the stream this week. So we're going to get to that and just a couple of other things. But first, let's do some introductions and let you guys get to know Mr. Worldwide a little bit better. So you are a fan of graphic novels and comic books, correct?
Yes, I'm a fan. I read a bunch. I gravitate more towards the darker, violent things. So I've picked my favorite Marvel characters, and I like to read about those in comics. So as the universe is a construct, I don't really know the ins and outs of it. I just like my character. I like my Hulk, I like my Wolverine, I like my Deadpool. So everything else I don't really know how it all fits together. So I'm learning that along a lot of people. So, it's kind of exciting. And I was going to ask you, what did you mean by second cycle? Like as far as how it comes out?
So basically, when we watch these movies, we're not watching them in release order. We're watching them in a way that it's a natural progression from the very first start of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so the story kind of all lines up. So as if you were to take every movie as a chapter in a book, this is the order that the chapters would be in that novel. And because the universe is always evolving, we're always finding some new person out there or their storyline is continuing. It's basically broken up into cycles. What we had released today, the trailer for The Eternals, is essentially the first movie in the fourth cycle of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Okay, wow. We're at four already. Okay.
So basically, Endgame officially ends the third cycle, and you can kind of put the last Spider-Man movie into that third cycle if you want to, or you can break it away and put it off to the fourth. I think the jury is still out on where that fits once we see what the Black Widow movie is going to be like, and that may kind of finish tying up all the loose ends because that's supposedly going to take place, her backstory, and then the time that we miss Natasha in the 5 years between the snap and Endgame.
Okay.
So this is the second cycle. The first one is basically you meet Iron Man, you meet the Hulk, you meet Captain America, and then you meet Nick Fury and everyone that's important for the evolution and creation of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers. And that's the first cycle. And then
when does the second cycle end?
So the second cycle, let me call up the list of movies.
I think that it'll help me add a little context, I think, in the grand picture.
You can kind of, there's like no real definitive.
Right.
For me, I would say that Civil War basically ends the second cycle, because then you go into Spider-Man Homecoming, Doctor Strange, Black Panther. You finally get those backstories for all those characters. It generally kind of falls in with like the big thing for the Avengers. And see, I told you guys we were going to mix it up. This week we're getting a little spoilery in the first half of our show. Because
I didn't say anything.
I did. Well, I haven't said anything yet, but Civil War essentially is the big catalyst for
end of it. We just say it's end of the cycle. We can just say, or the beginning of the cycle. That's fine. All we know. That's all.
So tell us I'll look up and I'll give you like the definitive ruling. That's where I think it is. It's kind of like fast and loose. I don't think there's really
and I think you're right. There, just like you pointed out with Spider-Man: Homecoming, and where it fits, and I think it's not a definite line, but it's just kind of where it starts to kind of move into something different. So that makes sense to me. There's no strict delineation. So that's okay.
I think Teets and I refer to them as cycles or circles. You can call them like the phases. But it's essentially we're 1, 2, and 3 are the Infinity War, Infinity Stones kind of saga. So we are firmly in phase 2 right now. And so the Cinematic Universe fandom page does say that phase 3, they prefer phase 3 to start with Civil War. So I can say that too. It usually begins with the catalyst of some sort that the Avengers and the characters find themselves in this position. So you mentioned you like the darker characters. So who is your favorite Marvel character?
Oh, okay, but now just any Marvel character.
You're gonna say Deadpool
in the universe. In the universe.
I would pick in the universe.
Okay, I just like Hulk. I like the character of Hulk. I think his journey's interesting. I don't know. I like Hulk, and I know that's he's had a rough go of it there at the end of one of these cycles here, but he's still my dude, and I'm still pulling for him, and it works out okay in the end.
And so you have not seen all of the movies of the Marvel universe.
You know what? No, I have not. There's only a couple I haven't seen. I've kind of gone through most of them. I did not watch the second Guardians of the Galaxy. I know that. I may have missed one here and there, but I think I've seen a majority of them. Just not in order, but I've seen them.
Was this a new to you movie?
No, I think I've seen this. It's so bad. I think I just kind of forgot about it, dismissed it. Like I just don't really remember much. I remember some scenes, and I'm like, oh yeah, just kind of had it all. Yes. It didn't really move me at all.
So this is one that is universally panned, right up there with the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk movie. I put it up there. I think Incredible Hulk is probably the worst out of all of the movies. I'm not a fan of any of the Iron Man movies though either, and this is, like I have talked about before, this is my second time going through this process, and it doesn't make my feelings towards Iron Man or anything that has to do with that any better. So I tried to focus a little bit of my attention away from the actual characters and more of looking deeper into plot and character development. And that's kind of some of the stuff that we'll talk about.
But I think you can fairly say that while you don't like the Iron Man character in the movie, that Iron Man 1 is still a good film from a cinematic standpoint and a conceptual standpoint and storytelling standpoint. It's a very good movie.
So I have no issue with the first Iron Man. Much like this Thor movie, Iron Man 2 has no reason to be there. Absolutely no reason to be there. You could have split that movie in half and tacked 30 minutes onto the first Iron Man and another 30 minutes onto Iron Man 3 and just be done with the two Iron Man movies.
It was the cash grab. You didn't even need the cash grab.
Which is interesting because when we get to this, just to talk about it, this movie did come out in 2013.
November 8th, 2013.
Yeah. And so it does kind of hit a couple of the things that I like about Marvel movies because it comes in right under 2 hours. It's 112 minutes. And so when a movie is really crappy like this one, at least I appreciate that they get it over with pretty quickly. So it's 112 minutes. And it does have quite a bit of star power. It's an 8th film in the Marvel.
So now we're getting into more of already doing our recap or breakdown. Did you want to talk about our news first? We're getting down the.
So we'll go back to I have one last question for you directly. What is your favorite Marvel movie?
Oh, my favorite Marvel movie. Well, it's probably Infinity War. If I have to
Okay.
pick one. Yeah.
Well,
That's a
at
super
what
sad
point
one,
did
right?
you?
That's super sad.
That's a
That's my
snap.
favorite one. Yeah. Yeah, that's my favorite one. Yeah.
At what point did you cry for the first time in Endgame?
You cry in Endgame. I read on the internet. I did not cry. I just watched it. It's a movie about comic book heroes. Like I don't want to cry in the movie.
I cried,
Like
but I started crying. I've been completely transparent about this. I started crying before the title card of the movie.
Before already sobbing. Like look, it wasn't a Requiem for a Dream for me. I wasn't crying at any point in the movie. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done. And maybe it might be my favorite too. I just liked it. I like the emotional weight of Infinity War. I think I like Civil War a lot, but I don't think I think I stopped watching it because I was watching it on a plane, and it was a work trip. I don't think I ever watched like the last 10 minutes of Civil War. I think I ever watched the very, 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 very end. So I watched the entire movie, but the end.
This is the part in the process that's been really fun for me doing it this time around and having Teets watch all the movies with me. So he's seen them all, but not in this kind of order, and how everything makes sense. And every week, I think we both I'm already in the camp, but I think he gets further and further in the camp that the linchpin and the most important movie of all of the cinematic universe is Captain America's Civil War.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's the first big introduction of another guy down the line will be pretty important, right? That's like the movie that really gets to do it.
Which happens to be one of my favorite.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's why I like that. That's my favorite part of that movie. One of my favorite parts of that movie. There's obviously the main issue in the film. Whatever. The two camps duking it out. That's the big thing. But
they pick sides. Essentially, it's the sides. Avengers pick sides.
Yep.
So we're gonna eventually get back to Thor: The Dark World, which is the 8th movie in our rewatch. It's also because now I'm focused on the phases. It is the second film of Phase 2 or Cycle 2. So today we finally got a trailer release for the first-ish movie of the 4th phase or 4th cycle of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it is called The Eternals. We got a teaser trailer that dropped today. It's about 2.5 minutes long.
221. 221 to be exact. 221.
So I asked Mr. Worldwide to watch it too. We're going to talk about it in just a second. It's not going to give you a whole lot of context. You're just going to kind of get to see the characters and understand them a little bit. Now, I did ask Teets. I'm like, I know we
don't even get that either. You don't even get any. They just dropped it. It's just a tease, really. It's a true tease. They don't give you anything.
You get to see the characters, and we get to see all of them. And so Teets and I double checked because I remember it. Back when we talked Captain Marvel, that's when we had our first discussion on the Celestials, the Eternals, and the Deviants. So we are meeting the Eternals for the first time, which are a body of being that were created by the Celestials, and they are basically protectors of the Earth. So they all have special abilities. Some of them have more empathy towards different things, such as the Earth, to humans. The interesting part: Thanos was the first Eternal that we've ever met, and he is of the deviant variety. He was born to parents of 2 Eternals, but somehow the blood got messed up, and so that's why but ultimately he still wants to protect the Earth because he hates the Avengers and the people of the planet for destroying the Earth and destroying the universe. Anyway, so
as someone who's also deviant, I understand.
See, I knew you feel a kinship with Thanos.
I do.
I completely understand that. So it's really glossy. It is very much a star-studded cast. We see that the Eternals arrive on a big spaceship that reminds me a lot of when the aliens land, or the aliens come in on Independence Day, and it just kind of creeps out of the clouds, and then there it is. We've got some fun. If you are a fan of Game of Thrones, like I am and Mr. Worldwide is, we get to see the reunion of
GOT.
we get to see a reunion of Jon Snow and Robb Stark are both in this movie, and there's a character named Cersei, but she's not bad. We also get to see our first look at Angelina Jolie, and she plays.
Oh, that was her in there. Didn't even recognize
she's
her.
in the all white with
cow.
the blonde hair. She
Okay.
plays a really, really strong warrior character. And then we also get to see Salma Hayek, who is basically
Whoa! She was in that?
Yes.
Holy mister. Holy cow. You don't recognize anybody in this trailer.
So at the very end,
okay.
So the very ending tableau, where you have the woman standing in front of Robb Stark, that's Salma Hayek. And she is basically, when the Eternals leave Earth, she's left to be frozen there in time until they're needed again. And she's the one that summons all of them.
Okay. All right. No, but didn't even notice. Holy cow.
And
that was one of my things. Yeah,
you're a big Salma Hayek fan.
That's my girl. Eventually that she'll be mine one day.
So, and there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of star power. The guys from Game of Thrones.
Didn't you mention Kamil?
I was getting to that. I said a lot of star power.
All right, my bad.
And so we've got Kamil, who is in there. We don't get to see him shirtless. Remember, he was really proud on social media right after that. The upfront announcement that he was going to be in this movie, he posted that shirtless picture of himself on his Twitter, Instagram, that he was in Marvel shape. But this time we just see him for a quick snippet, and he is all covered up and performing as a Bollywood performer.
I gotta give a shout out. To Kamil. It's because of him that PEDs are down all across sports, because that SOB has taken every roid in America. He is just jacked. Good for him.
That's a take. So we will have the release of the Eternals is in November. Mr. Worldwide had to be disappointed by it. Nexium absolutely was.
You left out the biggest star on the damn show, on the trailer. Brian Henry, a.k.a. Paperboy, Alfred Paperboy Miles from Atlanta. He's one of the Eternals. Come on now.
Yeah.
It's all about that Paperboy.
Listen, I'm trying to get to that. You didn't even notice that it was Angelina Jolie or Salma Hayek. So
but I knew Brian Henry. It's my dog.
All right. Well, this movie will release in November. I don't think we have an exact release date, but I have to imagine it's right around Thanksgiving. Based on everything I've read and what I kind of take away from the teaser trailer today, I have a feeling it is going to be pretty much based on the new series of comics that were released beginning in January of this year. Very, very similarly to, I always botch this, and this is when I need Teets to correct me. Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings also is a brand new released comic book, and that's another movie that's coming out this fall. I have to believe we're going to see the Eternals.
That's Marvel as well? That's Marvel?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, cool. I'm down
so
with it.
the Eternals, it's an incredible first cast, which is great to see them moving towards that. And based on the comic books, there are a bunch of really, really well-developed female characters, which is kind of an issue, especially in these early parts of the
early ones.
Cinematic
It's brutal. I think early ones are brutal. I think there's been a course correction in the no spoilers as we move on.
Yeah, so that's a November release. I imagine it's going to be one of those similar to the 10 Rings that is going to be released theatrical only. Nexium, wait, because Teets and I weighed in on this extensively, and this movie may have targeted a more insufferable female than Pepper Potts. That's a take for the review period. So November, it will likely be a theatrical release, and then will be available 45 days later on Disney Plus. Another Disney Plus update: we are just mere weeks away from the debut of Loki, the next Disney Plus exclusive streaming series, which is going to give us more of an insight into Loki. And I've long said that I'm very interested to learn about Loki, sometimes I think he's good, sometimes bad. A lot of the time I think he's misunderstood, and we get to see a little bit more of that in Thor: The Dark World, which we're about to talk about.
That's Loki in a nutshell.
That's Loki. He's just mischief.
Loki.
He's just chaos personified. That's just what he is. So before we get to that, we have another really great park announcement that we got today dropped on us. So Disneyland reopened just recently, only to California residents, but the first week of June will also give us the grand opening of the new Marvel Avengers campus at Disney's California Adventure. And today we got to see park maps and basically a release of what the land is going to look like. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see it. So Mr. Worldwide is a huge Disneyland fan. Would you say that's fair?
Oh man, yeah. I love Disneyland. Yeah, they have the best booze, easily. I'm close.
So basically, the Avengers campus has taken over. It started and is anchored by, right over here, you can see the tall tower that used to be the Tower of Terror at California Adventure, which is now Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. And during the Halloween spooky season is Monsters After Dark. But so now it's taken over all of the Bugs Life or Bugs Land area at California Adventure.
Oh,
and so it's going to it's going to feature, it has one e-ticket attraction, which is the building that says Web, and that's Spider-Man's Web Slingers, which is going to be like essentially kind of like a shooting game in a similar vein to Toy Story Midway Mania or Buzz Lightyear that park goers are familiar with on both parks. And it's going to have Pim's Test Kitchen, which is a restaurant and a bar. There's a Shawarma Palace and a Shawarma Palace 2, and then now even larger dedicated themed areas for you to meet members of the Avengers, especially those Avengers that you can only meet on the West Coast, which include Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, and T'Challa. We'll all have dedicated areas now arranged right here in the Marvel Avengers campus. And so that opens I want to say June 4th. This is where I need teats. But we did also learn a little bit more. You can find out all the details about the restaurants and the food and drink offerings in Marvel Land on our website, crescentlakeclub.com. And we've got a whole bunch of pictures and different things out on our social media, so you can check in with that. We did learn today that the Spiderman Ride will be on a virtual queue, just like Rise of the Resistance, the Star Wars ride at Disney. So that was really exciting. With the right things being built out, I didn't anticipate we'd get to see the Avengers Campus release this early. So I'm excited, and hopefully they will start allowing non-California residents to visit Disneyland soon. Are you excited about the Marvel Avengers Campus?
I mean, I could dig it. I mean, I'd hang it out, give me a cold one, and just kind of check it out. Yeah.
So you have been on the Guardians. You have been on the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, though.
Yeah, that's
correct?
Fabulous. I think we've seen 2 iterations of it. We saw a Hollywood or a Halloweenish one, and then the OG, the regular one. It's maybe my favorite ride ever. It's awesome. Some IPAs, you just go down there and kill it.
So that was all of our Marvel news for today. Like I said, they really love us on Mondays to just start our week off right with some Marvel news. And so now, here we go. I'm just going to run through the notes. We're going to just kind of give you an overview. Not a whole lot happens. It's a lot of just space nerdiness.
Yes.
But we're going to go with
first. Yes, it is first. It is Thor: The Dark World, released November 8th, 2013. That same time, that same week, that same day, the #1 song in America was Royal by Lorde. The movie's 2013. Alexander Payne's Nebraska, Django Unchained, Zero Dark 30, Man of Steel, Lincoln, a far superior Chris Hemsworth film in Rush, Iron Man 3, Gravity, Captain Phillips, and a movie about everyone's favorite alleged anti-Semite, Walt Disney saving Mr. Banks.
You're not supposed to say anything untowards about Walt here at the Crescent Lake Club because you're going to have at least one Teets and one Consuela jump you for that.
Well, I gotta be me. So there we go. But it was funny in 2013. The Red Sox knocked off the evil Cardinals in the World Series when this movie was released.
Next game he's trying. So yeah. So you did. I love Rush. Anytime it's on like HBO or something, it's a definite watch for me. It's so exciting. Isn't it crazy how car racing movies are awesome. Really popular?
Rush is fabulous.
Anything car racing, or at least open wheel racing, is really popular right now. So in the realm of the cinematic universe, we previously watched Iron Man 3. Next week, we will be watching Captain America Winter Soldier. And so this is basically where Thor: The Dark World lies. The synopsis: in the aftermath of Marvel's Thor and Marvel's The Avengers, Thor fights to restore order across the cosmos, but an ancient race led by the vengeful Malekith returns to plunge the universe back into darkness. Faced with an enemy that even Odin and Asgard cannot withstand, Thor must embark on his most perilous and personal journey yet, one that will reunite him with Jane Foster and force him to sacrifice everything to save us all. So we started out with one of Joe's, or Mr. Worldwide's, favorite movie conventions, an 8-minute opening monologue to tell you what is going on.
Yeah, that's like your number one tip for like this film is going to be a failure when they just have to just sit there and tell you. They can't tell you in film. So we're just going to roll through what you need to know to get through this hour and 51. Okay, we'll continue. But I just say it gets equally more frustrating when, like, 45 minutes in, our boy Anthony Hopkins Odin has to recap it again for Jane. You're like, you just told us twice now. You just wasted time. So double frustrating. So, whatever.
Let's blame that on Alan Taylor, the director. Because I don't think he did any other movies. I'm going to check this real quick. But basically, you just get the backstory of how Malekith and the war that Odin started previously to becoming what we know as Odin and the ruler of Asgard. So, I'm looking it up right now. He only directed Thor: The Dark World.
No, he got no other shot. So he botched it. Okay.
Yeah. In an interview with Uprocks, Alan Taylor explained that he ultimately didn't like to direct Thor: The Dark World, as while he was given total creative freedom during filming, the movie was then turned differently in post-production, an experience he wishes to never repeat on someone else. And this is the reason why he didn't return to direct Thor: Ragnarok, which, good, because Thor: Ragnarok is a top 3 Marvel movie in my world. I love Thor: Ragnarok.
It's very good.
Anyway.
It's a very good movie.
So we go through the monologue. It's just a bunch of nerdiness. And
it's not even nerdiness. It's just, it's
just mythology. You're just learning about mythology that ultimately only affects things in this specific movie.
Yes. And it's like, it's not that complex of a plot. We don't need, it's the same BS in every freaking movie. It's like, okay, we get it. We're going to have some fight scenes. Let's go.
So now we're past, I'm just going to gloss over it. It means absolutely nothing. Now the movie starts, which is like 5,000, 6,000 something years. Also, this is why you don't like this movie, because there are subtitles. Why are there subtitles?
They
don't need to speak a foreign language. They don't need to speak an alien language.
I don't know. Let's be a little more inclusive here of our little people in the galaxy.
Okay. Name me one other Marvel movie that has subtitles for a made up alien language.
Oh, I don't know.
Somehow they all learn. Somehow they all learn to speak English later in the series. It just felt unnecessary to me. Anyway, so when we start with the movie in cinematic universe, present times, Loki is in trouble, and he is brought before his dad, Odin, in shackles, and Odin gives Loki a life sentence in prison for his crimes against humanity. Now, that's just basically it. Loki, I'll get to that when I break. Loki and Odin have never really seen eye to eye. Obviously, Loki wants to be Thor. He wants to be number one in Odin's eyes. He wants to be the next Lord and Commander of Asgard, and Odin is just never going to see him that way. So a year later in Vanaheim, Thor shows up alongside a whole bunch of other, fighters to help defeat this ragtag group of warriors called the Marauders. They've just been basically working through the 9 realms, kind of like pillaging. They're almost like space world pirates, if I had to give them a description. And this is the first time that we see Thor. He makes a grand entrance, comes and cleans everything up. Everything's done. The Asgardians win the battle, and then while a couple of them stay behind, Thor and his friends return to Asgard, and there's a whole big celebration party for Thor's victory, but then he leaves and goes somewhere else because he's got his little buddy who is keeping track on Jane for him, has alerted him that she is now no longer, he can't track her anymore. He can't see her. He has no idea what's going on with her. She's just kind of disappeared off his radar. And at this point in time, the only thing more important to Thor than being the ruler of Asgard is this terrible female, Jane. So back on Earth.
I don't think she's that bad. She's poorly written. It's done, but I think ultimately, she serves a purpose. It's just horribly written, terrible character.
She's so needy. So back on Earth, we catch up with Jane, who is able to, after being abandoned by Thor, has been able to get herself off the couch, throw away that ice cream container, do her hair, put on some lady clothes, and is out on a date with the really hot guy.
Is that a date? That was a date?
That's a date. That was a date.
I didn't know. I never used to know that dude, in the context of the movie. Okay, didn't know.
So she's on a date with a guy named Richard, who is a super hot Chris O'Dowd.
He's a very tall gentleman as well. Very tall.
He's very, very tall. Very, very tall. And he wants to order sea bass, and she just starts saying sea bass over and over and over and over again. But this is because another one of Mr. Worldwide's favorite women, Kat Dennings, who plays Darcy, shows up and just interrupts this date. And it's like, Jane, hey, you're out in the land of the living. Oh, BT dubs, since you refused to come to your science lab that's in your mother's house, I have to bring science, and your little really fat cell phone that looks like a Game Boy is going crazy because the portals have opened. And she's like, I'm on a date. Leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone. Well, Darcy knows Jane really, really well. And so she's just waiting in the car for Jane to come back down to go and see what these portals are. It's not so much about the space, I don't think. Jane just wants to see Thor. Anyway, she starts saying sea bass over and over and over again and leaves the date to head down, gets in the car with Darcy and meets Darcy's, who is Jane's intern. Well, Darcy now is absence. In her sadness absence, because she just can't get past Thor dumping her. Darcy has hired her own intern.
He's got a lot of responsibilities and things to do, all these universes and stuff that Kat's got to be on. I get it. It's hard to be emotionally available. I understand.
Let me make a note of that, and we'll circle back to that one real quick. So Darcy has hired her own intern, this really tall, nerdy, not really sure what's going on guy named Ian. Anyway, they start following the Game Boy to where all of the readings are coming from, that apparently the portals have opened, and we get to an abandoned warehouse building that has a bunch of tweeners in it. And after talking to the tweeners, after talking to the tweeners, they're really open about what's going on, and they drop a wine bottle down and it just keeps circling. So the area they drop this wine bottle or water bottle through keeps circling. Jane drops a can, and it goes into the portal and disappears, but never returns. Jane drops the car keys because why wouldn't you do something illogical? But as they're watching all of this, the portal sucks Jane up, and she is taken away to somewhere in the netherworld. Yes, and then so she's like in a dark hole. She's in a dark hole. She touches something red. She floats in the air, and then somehow she gets back down to Earth. And for her, it's been like 30 seconds.
Yeah, she lost time. Homegirl lost time.
But so when she lands back on Earth, Darcy and Ian have called the cops, and the cops have read. Oh, by the way, they're in London. They're in London because Dr. Eric has called them to London. So Scotland Yard is out there. It is pouring. It starts pouring rain, and then suddenly Darcy and Jane are protected by this big circle that is keeping them from getting rained on. And Jane's spidey senses go off because who is standing just mere blocks away and rounds a corner? It's Thor. So Thor, after he was not able to track her location and make sure she was fine and okay, comes to Earth to check her out and make sure she's fine. And she runs to him because she's needy and she just needs Thor, which I could understand that, except he was still wearing like all of his chest plate and stuff like that. If it was shirtless, I could absolutely see that. I would at least give him a little bit of grief and maybe the silent treatment for a tiny bit for standing me up like he did. But she runs to him and forgives him. And then he says, I'm bringing you with me to Asgard to protect her and investigate what he thinks the Aether has done to her by touching that red thing. So then we get to Asgard, and it just turns into the Jane show. They start doing investigations and see that she's going to die because of whatever that Aether has infected her with. Odin has the great line of they're humans. Mortality is the only reason they're around, which was kind of funny. I wish Jade had died right there, but she didn't. And then it just basically turns into a caper movie of hiding Jane from Malekith and the Aether, which gets activated to try and come and take her. The Dark Elves, all of those people.
And I think that highlights a really tough part of the show, this movie.
They try to and so they go through all these things and well, just take it out of her. And you can't take it out of her without killing her. Well, then do something else. Well, maybe you guys should have made friends with T'Challa earlier, and Shuri could get over here and do something.
Spoiler alert. Calm down. The problem is that you have a villain that you don't care about, totally, again, uncharismatic, whatever, and you just don't care. It's just some bland villain guy. You're like, why? Oh, it's some villain dude. Step into it. So you have no reason to really give a damn. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah. So then we get a bunch of fights. Fights. And in order to protect Asgard from both the Dark Elves and the Marauders have shown up, they release all the prisoners from the jail except for Loki. And so we just see Loki sitting in his little big box with the little gold lasers or whatever is keeping it in there. But all the prisoners, they riot, and it distracts the Asgardians so Malekith can lead all of his ships on to Asgard with nobody seeing it. A battle takes place, and they're trying to lure things around. There's a hologram of Jane. There's all sorts of stuff. Meanwhile, Jane is decamped down with Thor's mother, and she is basically tasked with keeping Jane safe.
Gotta beat Mom eventually. Gotta meet her.
Right. Got it, man. And it seems like Mom likes her a lot. Dad is not a big fan. Dad is not a big fan at all.
That
Loki is not a big.
Not gonna lie, that cat's just grumpy, man. He's a grumpy dude.
Oh, Odin?
Yeah, just grumpy, crabby ass. Whatever.
So, his mom is trying to protect Jane, and here they come, and she battles valiantly, but ultimately
she can fight. Homegirl can fight. We learned that. She was good. She just had that super being, that guy with the super being guy. Where the hell he was?
Oh yeah, with the rhino horns.
Yeah, but he gets that thing.
Just...
They get the thing that makes them zombie out, and they get all wild ass. So he was tough. Formidable foe, I would say.
Yeah. So,
but pretty strong woman character though. In this terrible movie, she was the one like kind of strong woman character.
And what did they do?
Kill.
Murder.
I mean, I wasn't a fan, but it happened.
So she fights against Malekith, and then ends up ultimately dying. In retaliation, Thor, she was not strong enough. Not strong enough. You are correct, Josh. In retaliation, Thor disfigures Malekith with a bolt of lightning, which also sends the Dark Elves into retreat. Mom dies. Sad. We see this big funeral thing, which is, I thought to go back to Game of Thrones, I thought when What's-His-Face died in the last season and Khaleesi did her whole big sad funeral pyre thing, I thought that took forever. But this funeral pyre for Thor's mom, good God, that was 20 minutes.
Man.
Literally, like ship sailing out into the Asgardian night.
It had a serious ass tailgate though before it. They were raging.
Oh, they were partying.
Right under the freeway. It was awesome.
So basically, funeral pyre, sail Thor's mom off into the Asgardian Sea, and then light the ship on fire, and bye, Mom. You're good. Odin, who has never been terribly well balanced, is now super grief stricken, and he's taking out everyone, especially Jane, who believes it's her fault that all of this started, which he's not entirely wrong, but he's the one that engaged with the Dark Elves in the Aether first, but he's going to take it out on Jane, and he just...
And how lame is that, the concept of Dark Elves? That's just so lame, too. Dark Elves. They're the Dark Elves.
At least be like a scroll or something. At least
so
all the...
cool.
Yeah.
Dark Elves. I'm afraid of no elves.
Anyway. So he refuses to release Jane back to Thor. He refuses. She's now just a prisoner. She's just being held. And prisoner. So, now we've just gone full circle. Now she really is the victim. Not just a victim of a bad breakup, but now she is the total victim. And so he wants to use Jane, and he wants to destroy Malekith. And so Thor wants to break her out. He's got to get his girl out of jail, even if it means treason, even if it means losing his father's love, because if Tony's disgusting love for Pepper Potts was not enough, Thor has to double down and one-up him with even more ridiculous love for someone that is just terrible. So he comes up with a plan to steal her, take her away to safety, even though it would be committing treason. And for some reason, Thor thinks the best idea out here is to get Loki out of jail, and that Loki will help.
He needs Loki. He needs Loki's ability. He needs Loki's Lokiness, Lokiosity, if we will.
Shifting.
Yeah.
So essentially, he gets Loki out of jail. They try and move Jane around. Then there's a fight. There's just more fights. But this is where you get to see Loki's shape-shifting ability. And it seems like in the penultimate movie moment, the only really important moment of this movie, it appears that Loki is going to betray Thor and like chops his arm off and does all this stuff. He's just going to totally turn on Thor, is going to sell him and Jane out to the Dark Elves, into Malekith, and that is not the case. It's just more holographs and
Loki is more Lokiisms.
caperisms.
Oh Lord,
it's just more
Loki
capers.
again. Yep,
it's more capers. So then it's just more.
Then they go, and then they do. Yeah, then they just. What happens at this point? They do some more big fights. We think Loki gets killed. Remember?
We think Loki gets killed. Spoiler alert: he doesn't. But so after they mourn, Thor and Jane go into a cave. They believe they're clear. They're safe. Everything's good. They're done. But then her phone or the Game Boy, one or the other, gains reception. They keep going into the cave and they find a portal, and it takes them back to London. And this is where they have a meet up with everyone back at her apartment. And a really cute moment is Thor hangs his hammer by the wrist strap, hangs it on the little coat rack right by her door when you walk in. In the interim, while she and Thor have just been off digging around up in Asgard, Darcy and Ian have had to go spring Dr. Eric from a mental institution because he was caught running naked around Stonehenge trying to search for something, which we can only imagine was trying to find Jane, because Darcy kept trying to call Jane and Jane wouldn't answer. Yeah. And they kept trying to call Dr. Eric. And Dr. Eric never answered. And then Ian, Darcy's intern, Ian, is like, hey, you need to come see this on TV. And there it is. It's Dr. Eric just like on TV, naked, running around Stonehenge.
So why do they need Dr. Eric again? I already forgot that. Why is he necessary? What do you do? You work it down?
He's the one that works, that basically...
No, I know he is. How did he help in this case? Because they had to just whip some ass. That's all they did. Like, why have to get him? What did I miss in that part?
So he's been studying the convergence.
Okay.
So it's the convergence is he studied the effects of the convergence and developed devices that can also teleport. So if someone gets taken to another portal, he can bring them back. So if they're taking against their will to go and do the work of some other being in realm of whatever, he's developed these different things that can bring them back. So basically when Jane disappeared into the portal, Darcy needed Dr. Eric to try and find her to bring her back to Earth. Now, he had been in London and obviously around Stonehenge or something like that, because he's at the very beginning. That's why they're in London. It's because Jane summoned them, or he summoned Jane and all of them that are doing all of this research to London.
Sky's out.
Oh my gosh, nobody needs to see that. Well, then he could never find pants again. So they're like doing these meetings at Jane's house, and he's wearing a dress shirt and tidy whities, and it's like, come on. But an interaction with Dr. Eric in the mental ward is where we get our Stanley cameo. Dr. Eric is doing a kind of juggling thing to talk about how these portals and just space, time travel, all this kind of stuff works. And with two shoes, a black shoe and a gray shoe. And then the camera cuts over to Stan Lee sitting at a card table with another like kind of comatose person. He's like, can I have my shoe back? I only have one shoe. So there's your Stan Lee cameo.
Stanley.
Lee. 2 words, not one. 2 words.
I know.
So they have all these meetings with pantsless Dr. Eric and come to the realization that Malekith, he wants to spread the aether, which is, I guess, the red stuff that Jane has in her, whatever, through the portals. So that's their fighting people. So through the portals, so they can just destroy the world once and for all.
So mean. So very mean.
They go to another city in the UK, and a whole bunch of portals have opened up. The convergence is nearing its peak, and he arrives, and Thor engages him in battle. They fight, go through portals. Some real Inception shit happens. The scientists use. At some point, they take one of Dr. Eric's those big things that look like a big tripod that they're carrying around that they had to check out from the mental institution. So the Dark Elves use those to bring people from otherwhere. They bring a frost beast.
They had Yao Ming came in at one point. They're blocking shots. It's crazy.
What?
Nothing.
Anyway,
they had some crazy dudes. I think we can honestly say at this point we both just really stopped caring if dude lived or died or what happened. That's the most fair thing we can talk about.
This is my second time watching this, and
wrap it
essentially
up. Wrap it up, B. Wrap it up. It was so not interesting at all. Because in the construct of the film, you know what's going to happen. The good guys are going to be fine, and they'll resolve it. We know they're going to make more movies. So, because it's part of this universe, it doesn't have any drama or anything that would try to keep your interest. And I think that's that kind of.
So basically, Celtics they win, and Thor and Jane are trying to get away on this arc of Malekith, and it's going to crash, and something's going to crash into it, and Selvig uses his last tuning fork to take the arc away so they survive. Killing Malekith.
This may have been when I napped. I took a nap. A little 50-minute cat nap at this point. I think this is the point of the
Everything is over. Anyway, everything is over. Thor goes back to Asgard. Odin celebrates him regardless of his treason. Congratulates him. He finally says that that Thor will make a wise king and will make a great king, all these wonderful things. But
See, treason is rewarded. Be a wise king.
Right.
Get him in there.
And then Thor says,
"No, sir." He goes, "No, sir."
He was not ready to bear the weight of the throne. And then, of course, where does he go? Back to Earth to be with boring-ass Jane. And
But
as he leaves, Odin is not Odin. Odin is Loki. Because Loki shapeshifts and can be anything. And he faked his death, overthrew Odin, and now Loki, it looks like, is going to get what Loki has always wanted, to be ruler, Lord Commander, the guy over Asgard. This is all he's ever wanted. He's wanted to. Now he did say in stronger terms that he wanted to see the bodies of his dad and his brother, his half brother, and then to watch Asgard burn if he couldn't take the throne. So now we have
maybe
Loki.
that's going a little bit too far. I would say that with Loki.
But Loki being Loki, because Loki is just chaos personified, faked his death, usurped Odin, and now we see him sitting on the throne.
Oh Lord, stuck with Loki again.
And then we get credits.
And then credits. Oh yeah, but then there's also the credits, the Marvel credits. Always a surprise.
So, in the credits, we see that Sif and Volstagg, they have gone to a different place, and they meet someone we will become incredibly familiar with, Jessica movies. Actually, one movie from now, we're going to watch Winter Soldier, and then we're going to get into both of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and we meet Tanelier Tyven, the Collector. And they have gone to see him to ask him if he wants to hold something or add something to his collection. And immediately he's kind of skeptical about this. He's like, why would you keep two stones? Or why wouldn't you keep two stones? I'm like, well, we already have the Tesseract and we have to protect the Tesseract, which you guys know from the very beginning, we've been following the protection of the Tesseract ad nauseum. The Tesseract is the most important part of these 3 cycles of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But then now we discover that the Asgardians have come across a second Infinity Stone. And they don't want to keep 2 Infinity Stones in their same vault. They think it would be easier to protect one at home and one abroad rather than to protect 2 at home. So they ask if he would take care of one of them, to which he does, and they hand it off to him. And then as the kind of credits come back on, we see Tyvin take a really deep breath and raise his head, and only the way he can do it says, 1 down, 5 go. So
the great Benicio del Toro. The great Benicio del Toro.
So the race for all of the Infinity Stones, the entire other world knows about it and is officially on. So it's not just us that find out about it later in the series, but everyone knows about them, and everyone is trying to just put the pause on them and get just kind of a trace to see where everything is. And then
that points out one of the curious things about this universe and this series of films, because in the context of of November 8th, 2013, you're in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And if you paid for this movie, I feel bad, but you're in the theater watching this, and you're like, okay, cool. You watched your movie, it kind of sucked. You watch the credits, you see this part, and unless you're this monster Marvel comic fan, you're like, if you're just a normal movie, you're like, what? Infinity Stones? What the hell? And that just ends. Like, it won't register at all. Like, you won't retain that. You won't really care.
No.
You just throw it in there. It's like rewarding multiple viewings, and it's like, it's just weird.
Also, if we're going to flip it around, because when did the Guardians... So this movie came out in 2013, where Tyvin is going to make sense is Guardians of the Galaxy, which came out... I'm going to look that up real quick, but this is why, and now I'm so excited that you brought that point up. This is why watching these movies, even if you've seen them before, but watching them this way is so ultimately rewarding. Yeah, don't you think already, now that we've just been talking about?
Guardians was 2014 the next year.
Okay.
Interesting. That was longer than that, but hey,
It felt like I was going to say like
so long.
2018 was going to be my guess.
Yeah. The OG was 2014.
And so then Thor's on Earth, he unites Jane, the Frost Beast is there. Like, kind of running around. I'm sure we're going to see it again. He's chasing a flock of birds. And then it's over. So.
Finally.
This felt a lot like Marvel's version of a Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Which, to be honest, I said the same thing about Iron Man 2. I give this, out of 5 stars, I give this 1.5. It is not the worst movie of all of them, but it's down there at the bottom.
1.5's pretty harsh. I may go 2. Like, it's not like, it still looks decent to look at. It's just a terrible story and a terrible screenplay. But it doesn't look terrible. What's that?
No, keep going. Finish while I call up. I had things I didn't want to talk about.
No, it's just it just is. It kind of just exists. To me, that just exists. Its place in the MCU. A trash can ultimately the best spot for it, but that's a few things you need to know about, a few things that will pay off. Eventually, they make you suffer for it, but.
So, and this is why, like, Tease has been previously like, Loki's bad, Loki's bad, Loki's bad. I'm like, Loki ultimately has redeeming qualities, but only if it ultimately benefits Loki. So I don't think he didn't want Thor to die.
No, not at all. He just
wants Thor's spot, and it's only because the only person Loki truly hates is Odin, is because Odin told him straight out in the first Thor is, yeah, you will never be good enough. You will never be worthy enough. You're just not anything to be the ruler of Asgard. And Loki took that to heart. It had nothing to do with Thor. Like, yeah, Thor was the golden prodigy son, the prodigal son that was picked, but it it had nothing to do with Thor. It was 100% about Odin. And so that's why I'm really excited about the Loki series, because I think we're going to get to see a little bit more at the shapeshifting, which also surprise Steve Rogers cameo, uncredited, is Loki does shapeshift into Captain America real quick in one of his kind of manic things. We do see our good friend Steve Rogers, the top 3 Avenger in this movie.
Stuck with Loki again. Yep, you see him.
So we've talked about its place in the MCU. It doesn't really have one other than
trash can.
Well, not so much trash can, because it does give us an insight to Loki, which is probably why we've got the great series about to come out, the spinoff series that is just about Loki on Disney Plus, which starts in June. So we already talked about how bad this movie is. I have 2 topics that I kind of want to talk about.
All right.
We'll just go ahead and get it. Marvel, okay. I love you.
Here's a quick question. Why does Odin have a different last name than Thor? And is it something about Thor and Loki? Is it something about just their culture? They adopt the name
well, yeah, because Loki is from another planet.
I mean, it's Thor Odinson and Loki Odinson, but it's Odin Borson. He gets a different name. It's interesting.
Because
they have different kind of style.
So Thor is Odin's son. It's kind of like him. You don't watch Handmaid's Tale, where they're like of Fred, of something. So So Thor is Odin's son, and
he's
Loki
Odinson. Okay. Oh yeah. He's Loki. He is Odinson as well. Okay, I understand that. So my dog will be Josen. That's Josen.
There you go. Bro Sweet. Josen. So Josh asks, isn't Loki in the series a different universe? So full reset of the character? My understanding is, again, it falls into that kind of realm, either between, well, it's before he dies. We can do spoilers now. It's before he dies at the end of the 3rd cycle. So, because Loki and Idris Elba's character get killed right away at the beginning of Infinity War. So my understanding was the series is going to lead straight up to that, to kind of flesh out the last time we see him, which is maybe this movie into Infinity War. I don't know, Josh. That was my understanding, but I could be completely and totally wrong. If anyone else has a better insight onto what the Loki series is going to be, please tell us in the chat. But I think they're not so much a full reset of the character, but to give us different insight into what he does. Like, I know Matthew McConaughey is in this.
Whoa.
Josh.
Is he bringing his blue light? Do you know? He has blue light?
What? No, he's not bringing his blue light. You're an idiot. It's the first time in the history of the chat someone has actually requested Teats. Teats.
Oh man.
And he's too busy selling nuts during a Brewers game to even realize.
You can't keep that man away from nuts. I've always said that. You cannot keep him away.
Rude. That is rude.
What? Rude. What's he doing now? Rest my case.
He's selling nuts. He's Teats nuts. So
it takes place after the Avengers Endgame.
Don't worry, I just clipped it. What?
It takes place after the events of Endgame. Loki. This is the show.
So is Loki not?
I don't know. It's after the events of Endgame. And in the trailer, he's wearing some kind of, he's like in prison or something, wearing some kind of, like, he's in super prison. He's on Supermax, according to the picture. But I mean, it's after the events of Endgame, allegedly. That's what it's about.
Interesting.
So I think it's the same cat. I mean, they may, but you know, it's after Endgame.
Maybe Loki didn't die. Well, he hasn't died.
It's Loki. How do you know? He's a god. How do you kill a god? He's a god of mischief. How do you kill him? So yeah, maybe you're reinventing him as a, you know, it could be a little Loki reinvention. It's after Endgame, so who knows? I'm excited now. More excited than apparently Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which you refuse to watch. So how do you care?
I'm already three episodes into Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Okay, whatever. Not me.
I'd rather just hang out with Sam down at the bar when I normally see him there. Anyway, I digress. I want to talk about real quickly. It's been a running commentary every week that these early edition Marvel movies had no idea how to write for women. Absolutely no idea. And
I agree.
when you watch it this way, where the first movie is Captain America, the second movie is Captain Marvel, it just puts it into just glaring obviousness that they cannot write for women. The women can be smart. They can be empowered slightly. Pepper Potts is not dumb. She's just needy. Jane Foster isn't dumb. She is just needy. They're more like, even it's not his sister, but I always think of her as his sister in this movie, that Thor has to come in right at the beginning, has to come in and save because she screwed up the fight, and he has to swoop in and save the day with his hammer and everything. It's just, how could you not find a way to realize that women can bring something to the table other than being the arm candy or the damsel in distress or the person that needs to be saved? And when you watch it this way and you see Captain Marvel as your second movie, who is the most badass of all of the Avengers, she is not just protecting Earth, she's protecting the entire universe.
Yeah, it's a real marvel. The other thing about it that really offends me about the relation with women, and it's in this film as well. Yeah, I mean, you don't let women be themselves, and that's really what's most insulting. You have Kat Dennings in there, and all they do is hide her ample bosoms. And this is, we're all about body positivity and letting people be themselves. We're sick of these stick figures, actresses. They just cover her up, and that's just not right. She got wearing that damn infinity scarf.
You got V-necks and plenty of V-necks in WandaVision, so leave me alone with this cat.
They got her wrapped up in that infinity scarf like she's in a Texas high school football game in December. That's not going to do it. Let her be who she is.
She was in London. It's cold and rainy there. I know you haven't been there. It's gross. It's gross.
Insulting to us. Just let her be her. Body positivity, number one.
We're not dumb. Then we just get yet another installment of why all of the original Avengers have massive daddy issues. And out of all of them, so Tony Stark's is more like, wow, my dad worked a lot. Like, literally.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, you're right. We're starting
to see Thor maybe has some real reasons.
But we know, his dad sucks. His dad kind of sucks. It's a lot to live up to. It kind of sucks.
So it's interesting just to keep tabs on the daddy issues that we have running through the major Avengers characters. We know that certainly down the line, Natasha has some, Hawkeye has some. We never really hear much about Captain Marvel's family. T'Challa does not.
No. So that's why they have strong women also. They don't have any issues there.
Yeah. So it's just interesting to see, like, Tony Stark whines about his dad so much, especially when we get to Endgame. Whines about his dad and whines about being a dad and how is he going to be good about being a dad because his dad was so shitty. Your dad just worked a lot, Tony. You want to see a shitty dad? Odin is a real shitty dad.
Yeah, and you have to be a billionaire. So that's not so bad.
Tried to kill you. Tried to kill your half brother. Absolutely wanted to kill your girlfriend or pony her up like he had a payment due to a Mexican cartel.
Whoa, don't need to bring race into this. Calm down. We'll be okay. We'll see. We're all one. We'll survive. But I think that's a problem you find in most cinema, though. I mean, most of it's built with characters. I mean, daddy issues. That's how you get a lot of the supposed complexities from that. But I think that's indicative of most American cinema. I mean, I think that's not it's worse here because it's comic book, but I don't think it's out the norm.
So as a man, you are a man. You identify as a male.
Okay.
You identify as male. Your pronouns are he, him.
That is true.
Do you feel like this is an accurate representation of how most men feel about father figures or different things growing up.
Well, I know that when I was trying to throw my hammer that flies around and swings back at me like cat shit. I mean, I felt a little bit of that pressure. Yeah, it's a weight, heavy as the head that wears the crown. But no, I think it's just like I said, it's an excuse for any kind of real deep emotional bond, an excuse to gloss over stuff and keep the action going. I mean, that's all it is.
Yeah, so
they're trying to give you something that's fake, real, and then you can just go to the next scene and blow more shit up. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it basically just the shitty writing and emotional crutch that they need to kind of humanize these superhero guys because they don't know any better to give them more depth outside of what they could see on a flat page?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, it doesn't take you away from this awesome stream in your free time. But there's a whole podcast, whole movie podcast. It's called Why Our Dads. And all it does is explore daddy issues in major, very popular films. Some of the best films ever made. Jaws is one they break down. So it's a theme that runs through American cinema. Rain Man, Pretty Woman, all got issues. That's how that's the movie. So Blue Valentine,
absolute daddy issue. No, it just feels like for some of these guys, it's the justification. It's the justification for why they are the way they are, even though they're just products of their environment. It's ultimately nature versus nurture. So Tony Stark may have hated his dad for constantly being working, but Stark Industries wouldn't be that way, and he wouldn't
have all this cool stuff. No, I know. Sometimes it's fun. I mean, all that cool stuff. He's Stark Industries. It's pretty cool.
And so, the other thing is, I feel like Thor, and at least the one good thing that come out of this movie was he did stand up to his dad and say, "Fuck you, nah." Even though it wasn't actually Odin. Right. It was Loki as Odin, but this is something that Thor previously would never have done until the last third of this movie when he tried to break Jane out and commit treason to steal her. He never would have stood up to Odin and say, "You know what? You're right. The crown is mine. I'm going to take it, but I don't want to do it. I don't want the weight. I've watched too many friends and allies and people die, and I'm not just the weight though. And also he's not really sure the depths of how Odin fucked Asgard for the rest of the realm too. Who else is coming at him? He's like, I don't have capacity for it. I'm not going to do that. And
but he was concerned about defending the rest of the galaxy too. Though he was concerned about things outside of Asgard.
He saw that there was a bigger picture outside of Asgard.
Yes.
Unfortunately, a lot of it involves Jane, but he did see that there's more to just this, and he can't affect change, or he can't protect or use the powers that he has if he's stuck sitting on a throne just having to worry about Asgard and has no capacity to understand how bad Odin screwed all of this up. Because everything that happened in Thor in the Dark World was 100% from Odin before Odin even became ruler of Asgard.
Yes, agree.
So how bad is this movie? You gave it 2 stars.
Yeah, 2 stars. It's not essential. It's essential as far as kind of keeping up with what's going on in the whole universe and how But I mean, if you never saw it, I think you could piece it all. You could figure it all out, piece everything together. It's not gonna. You not seeing this is not going to limit you in any way. It's just it's hacky. It's hacky. It's not very good. And even though it's 151, it's still too damn long. I mean,
it's way too long.
It still feels long.
The most important thing was obviously the death of Thor's mom, but we see that again in Endgame, and he gets to revisit it, and he gets to have his goodbye with her, and so that's really important. So while he has daddy issues, he still loves his mom. So we see that later on in Endgame. We'll see more of Loki, and I never can remember Idris Elba's character,
I
but he's like
can't.
he wears another crown that looks like Loki, but he was the one that keeps tabs on Jane for Thor, and like he's his buddy. He's all knowing. He's like basically like an otherworld
His
oracle.
official name is Heimdall Barksdale. I'm just kidding. It's Heimdall. 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 Heimdall Bell. Heimdall Bell, actually.
Heimdall. No, it's Heimdall.
Heimdall.
So there you have it. Any last thoughts on Thor: The Dark World?
No. Not any last thoughts. I think the thing that sticks with me is how much talent you can have that you just burn and don't really utilize it all. I mean, you just have like Stellan Skarsgård just doing nothing bid for no reason in a few scenes.
Walking around in a dress shirt and tidy whities.
It's just wild what you can burn if you have the budget and the whatever. It's like major studio, let's just do this. But here's what it is. I'm kind of glad I saw it. Cause you kind of forget the depths of what some of the Marvel stuff was. You know, we kind of get spoiled with some of the latter stuff, and it's really good. So you see this, and you're like, yeesh, how'd this get made? But you know.
Do you think you'll start watching the movies from this point forward in the chronological way? Do you have any interest in doing that?
I don't know. Maybe. I might. I don't know.
Because it's Winter Soldier next week, so Teets will be back for another Marvel Monday next Monday for Captain America: Winter Soldier.
An actual good movie. An actual very good movie.
Can't stop us. And then I think we're going to bring a couple of special guests because we're going to cram the 2 Guardians of the Galaxy movies into one stream. So 2 movies, you may get 4 of us. We'll see what guests we've got. I think that's our plan because we want to try to get back on track to where we think the Black Widow movie is going to fall when it is released on Disney Plus, and where we'll go in the cycles of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So we can review that like 1 to 2 weeks after it comes out on Disney Plus.
I'm excited about that one. I'm
so excited about that one. And then we know we have a Loki series. We also know we have again, this is where I need Teets, but a series based on the scrolls from Captain Marvel. We'll be following that up as the next Disney Plus series. And we know for a fact there is a Hawkeye series because early on in the pandemic, Jeremy Renner tweeted and Instagrammed multiple pictures of his chair filming a Hawkeye series. So we know there is a Hawkeye series coming. So between Black Widow and Hawkeye, those are the 2 I'm most excited about because they're 2 of my favorites. The relationship between the 2 of them is so amazing. And I want to hear the backstories. I want to see the time between the snap and when we saw quite a bit of Hawkeye, what Hawkeye did.
Yeah, just where they take it. There's so much source material. You can go a lot of different directions here. So that's going to be what's interesting for me. Now he's older now, so I think we're going to get a level of, like you said, kind of more behind the scenes and color of this Hawkeye we know. But you could have gone a lot of different directions with that story because the comic book threads are awesome.
Yeah, you're a low-key super Hawkeye fan because he's
monster
a ninja.
Hawkeye fan. I've read all his books. I've read most of the cool different interpretations of him, and they go in a bunch of directions. It's awesome. It's really fun. It's a really great character.
And so the great part, when I cried was Hawkeye finally got, when we get to Endgame, we'll see it. I'm going to talk about it ad nauseum. But Hawkeye finally got himself on the right direction. He's got a wife. He's got kids. They live on a planet, like a big spread of land. He's a family man now. And the snap takes everything from him. And then he just reverts back to, he doesn't know how to go and get the person that caused the snap. He just is going to go after every other man that treats women and children terribly. Yes, he has been mad under repped in the movie so far. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about the series, because he was very, very integral in Endgame, and you got to see just a little bit of his life and everything else, and how things changed and what he wanted to do. And he's like, I got to think about it. T'Challa always number one. Carol is number two. It could be, given any given day, it could be Thor or Natasha or Clint. I don't know. I like all of them so much. I just know that I hate Iron Man. He's my most hated.
And what's his name in Space Lord? I hate Space Lord.
Oh, you have real hot takes on Guardians of the Galaxy, though. So give this to everyone. Yeah, he just thinks they're a bunch of fuck ups.
I just hate that movie. I just hate those movies.
Oh, good. Well, then do you want to come on our
maybe
double feature? All right. I invited NextGame 86 too.
Once I get my internet fixed, I'll be in there and hate on it. I hate the Guardians.
Oh, that's awful. I mean, they're fine. They are what they are. Anyway, any last parting shots? Joe, aka Mr. Worldwide, what would you do if Deadpool popped up in like the 4th or 5th cycle of the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Celebrate. I would celebrate. I'd do what I'm doing now, and I would raise a drink. My dog, Deadpool. No, it'd be great. I think it'd be more fun. We get to that point where like they do in the comics, we can blend things and have fun and kind of reach out, and I think that'd be great. Get some Wolverine action, some Deadpool mixing with some Hulk, all that stuff. Mix it all together. It's fun.
Yeah,
let's do it. Go nuts. Go wild.
Well, so thanks you guys for joining us tonight on another Marvel Monday. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification button, because we are going to be going live with a couple of happiest hours this week, mostly because Teets wants to stream, and then we're going to have some cruise updates. If you're following us and watching us on Twitch, again, thank you so much. Just hit that subscribe button to follow us so you will always know when we go live. Don't forget to check our website and our blog, crescentlakeclub.com, for all the latest news. All of our links to our social media are down in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for spending your Monday with us. Mr. Worldwide, thank you.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Happy to help.
I really
Anytime
appreciate
I need someone to pitch in, anytime I need someone to pinch it, just let me know. I'm ready to go. But just call my agent. He'll let me know.
Okay. And so I'll be back on Wednesday with Courtney for another Wind Down Wednesday. We skipped last week because it was just too much. And so we'll be back on Wednesday, and then Teets and I will be back next Monday for another edition of Marvel Monday, and we will be reviewing one of the best movies of the MCU, Captain America Winter Soldier. Thank you guys so much. It's been great. We'll see you later.
Papalita.